There's one particular question that trans people get asked all the time during their transition. What makes us our gender? And that is a good question. However, usually people ask it in bad faith, right? They ask it to try to catch you out or try to disprove your logic or whatever, right? And intentionally trying to bring you down, I guess, and make you answer emotionally isn't great. So rather than this video being a criticism of that, so to speak, this is more of a video about reassurance that it's okay if that's a question you don't know how to answer, right? I mean, when you think of it really literally, for example, me as a trans woman, what makes me a trans woman? What makes me a woman in general, right? Well, when people ask you that, chances are if you kind of did a know you, they wouldn't know how to answer either. When cis people get asked what makes them their gender, they might jump immediately down to their lower regions, or perhaps reproductive organs in general. And the thing is, even people that are assigned male at birth, female at birth, etc., they won't always have the same equipment, so to speak, down there that aligns with that definition, right? It's usually more complicated than that. So once you say that, then they might rely on something a bit more stereotypical. Perhaps, for example, for women, they might highlight a certain style of fashion or femininity. And that's also a bit stereotypical, right? I mean, realistically, not all women dress the same. Not all men dress the same. It's not really a helpful indicator of an absoluteness of gender. Maybe they'll highlight something more social, the way we act within the society around us. And, well, as you might have guessed, we all act different because we're all individuals on this wonderful planet of ours. The thing is, it's not really something that can be explained in a single sentence. Truth be told, gender is complicated. However, it being complicated doesn't mean it's not real. So if you feel like you can't explain or justify why you are a certain gender in a single sentence while provoked, understand that that's okay. You are not given a certain air of validity depending on how well you debate someone that's being not very nice. The thing that makes us our gender is a bit more holistic, right? There's lots of things that come together that form our own definition of why we identify with that gender, right? So me, as someone that identifies as a woman, I will relate to certain aspects of womanhood and that general social experience, but that might not be in the same way others will, right? I can't have kids in the same way that a cis woman possibly could, right? You'll notice there I said possibly, because again, not all cis women can do that, right? So the thing is, that doesn't disclude me from being a woman. And me being stereotypically feminine, like wearing a skirt or wearing makeup or a cute outfit and having a feminine sounding voice, that doesn't necessarily concretely determine my gender either. It's not really about hitting a checklist, right? You don't have to do every single thing that is associated with a gender, right? And equally so, you can still identify as that gender without ticking any of the boxes. It's really about how you feel and how you navigate things, right? A part of femininity that I really resonate with is that shared experience of various women around me that are able to overcome. A part of being a woman I identify strongly with is that sense of community aspect and socially being perhaps underestimated, but we still accomplish great things in spite of those underestimations. I really like stereotypical feminine clothing, for example. That's a really fun aspect of expressing femininity that makes me feel nice. However, those things aren't necessarily concrete either. For example, a femboy will happily wear something really feminine. However, for him, that's a way of expressing his masculinity, his way of approaching gender, right? So it doesn't have to indicate anything. But feminine clothing means something to me in the lens of me being a woman, right? That's how I feel and identify with it. Perhaps simply me being happier when someone says she or her in reference to me, or just referring to me as a girl, or that inclusion with women's spaces, that happiness and joy I feel, I think is enough to justify it. It's worth understanding that the words we use to describe things and experiences aren't the experience itself. These words and labels are just our way of describing that shared experience of other people. When I say the word girl, something pops into our mind, right? And it's informed by our experience in this wonderful world of ours. However, the word itself isn't just a girl, right? It's us describing what we in our mind view as a girl. Imagine if in the same manner as someone mean on the internet, I walked up to someone and I said, "What is a bird?" And they said, "A bird is an animal that flies." And I could then say, "But penguins are birds, and penguins can't fly." Clearly we're just making up descriptions now. That is not what a bird is. And then maybe in response to that, you would go, well, if that's not the case, then a bird is something that lays eggs, an animal that can lay eggs. And we go, oh, well, the penguin can lay eggs. Okay, I see where you're coming from. But also a platypus can lay eggs. We can't simply explain the complex meaning of gender or whatever through one sentence. And unfortunately, a lot of discourse around gender targeted at trans people is usually for the sake of riling us up or getting a reaction and causing us to act emotionally. However, the ability to be transgender shouldn't be tied to our ability to perfectly understand biology, psychology, linguistics, etc. Right? Your ability to define this thing, this phenomenon perfectly is not an indicator of how valid you are in those feelings you have. These words and experiences, theories and understanding of the world, they exist to explain the experience, not like be the experience, you know? Your ability to be yourself is not defined by your ability to fundamentally understand the human experience or whatever. All you have to know is, when I wear this clothing, does it feel nice? When I'm referred to with this pronoun, does it feel nice? That's all we have to focus on. But we're kind of put on this weird spotlight where we're meant to justify everything through perfect science. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't have a master's degree in any of the disciplines mentioned earlier. I have a bachelor in Japanese studies, but that doesn't really apply here. When a trans kid says, hey, I think I'm a girl, or hey, I think I'm a guy, or hey, I think I'm neither a boy or a girl, they shouldn't have to wait until they have like master's level knowledge of every scientific discipline just to prove with absolute certainty that they are that gender. The kind of people debating people on Twitter or the like aren't really people that have these master's degrees in all of these disciplines, right? Not even people that necessarily know that much about these disciplines. This video isn't to say that I'm somehow on a pedestal because I said fancy words. No, rather, it's just the point of the video is that we don't have to fundamentally understand everything to be ourselves. What makes me trans? Who knows? I leave that to the experts, right? But I still know that I myself am a trans woman. And I feel really comfortable in being a trans woman. I really like wearing girly clothing. I really like being referred to as she, her pronouns. And I recently got bottom surgery and I feel pretty good about it. Those are isolated things. You don't have to agree with all three of those things I just mentioned to be trans, right? You just have to be you. If you feel confident as a different gender than the one assigned at birth, congratulations, that's pretty trans. If you simply just want to be gender non-conforming, that's okay. I think a lot of trans discourse tries to make it in absolutes, like being ultra cis or ultra trans. Like, it doesn't matter. Just do what you want. My role as a funny little trans YouTuber on the internet isn't to convince you or give an objective argument to why you are or are not transgender. Instead, these kind of videos are just here to add the sense of comfort that you can kind of just do what you want. There's no single thing that makes us trans. There's no single thing that makes someone cis. There's no single thing that defines gender as a whole. It's very complicated. However, you don't have to understand the entirety of it to be able to wear something that feels nice or to take hormones that make you feel less depressed, right? When people take basic cold medication, do they really understand how that cold medication works? Probably not. At least to the extent of the people creating it, right? However, if you have a cold medication's important. Every single human being in this wonderful world of ours is very different. And those differences should be celebrated. We should be able to express ourselves however we want in this wonderful little world of ours. As there's only one true thing that we all have in common. We're on this little planet of ours, together. And I don't know about you, but I think the world would be a better place if we all got along and celebrated our difference. Now, easier said than done, of course, but wouldn't it be nice? This video doesn't prove anything. This video doesn't disprove anything either. This video just is. That's all it has to be. This video is just saying that you, the person watching, you can identify however the heck you want. Doesn't matter. You can do what you want. Like, do whatever you want, okay? So if you take anything away from this video, I want it to be that you can be any gender you want, and you don't have to explain the vast complexities of being that gender to be that gender. We don't put that on cis people. We don't look at a cis person and tell them to explain why they're a man or they're a woman, right? We don't do that. We just kind of let it be. We kind of just let them live their lives. So similar to how we just let cis people be their gender, no questions asked, it'd be pretty cool if we did that to trans people too. I hope you enjoyed this video and I hope it was helpful. Any questions about the transition experience, feel free to ask in the comments below. I have various videos about the trans experience if you're curious in any way. Remember, channels like this shouldn't promote like making you a certain gender or making you trans or not. The information's there. If you resonate with it, you resonate with it. That's all it has to be. If we avoid stigmatizing things, then the information will be more accessible and it's easier for you to make your own rational decision of what you want specifically, okay? So, hope you enjoyed this wonderful video. If you want to see more, feel free to hit the funny subscribe button. It would be much appreciated. Be sure to hit the like button and comment anything you thought about in the video. And if you want a tutorial or information or a question answered about trans experience, don't hesitate to mention it. I'm always open to ideas. And I hope this video was helpful for you. And I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Be yourself, okay? Whoever that is. And you don't have to prove anything either to be that. Stay hydrated and know that you are valid. I'll see you next week.